Welcome to the Leadership Passport, a podcast where we dive into journeys, challenges, and insights of school and education leaders from around the world. And I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, Miss Donna Chemka. Donna is a dynamic education leader with over 25 years of experience spanning international schools across the Asia-Pacific region. Currently serving as head of school in Bangkok, Donna is president of the board of directors for the Australian-Thailand Chamber of Commerce. Her career includes various leadership positions in multiple schools, both internationally and in Australia, including state and independent schools. Donna holds a Master of Leadership from Deakin University, an advanced certification in educational leadership, and a Bachelor of Education with honours. As an experienced International Baccalaureate educator, she is an accredited... I didn't say that correctly. I'll edit that bit out. As an experienced... We'll get there. Maybe I should have had
But
another
you got the
coffee.
name right. That's the most important thing.
As an experienced IB educator, she is an accreditation leader, workshop leader, curriculum writer, and online facilitator. Her expertise has been recognised with multiple awards, including Women of Excellence, Thailand 2024, Professor Indira Parikh Educational Leadership Award in 2023, and Outstanding Leadership Award in 2022. His leadership philosophy centers on creating environments where everyone feels a sense of belonging, fostering open dialogue, and placing students at the heart of decision-making. With her diverse understanding of international education and expertise in curriculum development, Donna continues to make significant contributions to educational leadership and student success across diverse multicultural settings. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you. Didn't AI do a good job?
Yeah, it does some amazing things, doesn't it, these days?
True, but yes.
No, fantastic. And look, so you shared with me a little bit earlier that you wanted to be an opera singer in high school and you sang in many professional choirs in your youth. And you also mentioned an interaction with Pavarotti as a part of that. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. You asked for a deep, dark secret. I had to find one that was clean. Absolutely. When I was in high school, I had a dream of being an opera singer, and I do have qualifications in classical voice studies. And as part of that, I was able to be in a choir that accompanied Pavarotti in what happened to be his last Australian tour. And I got lost backstage when we were in Sydney, and I walked past the dressing room and there he was. And being the person I am, I thought, I've got to just grab this. And I knocked and I said, can I have a photograph with you? And this is back in the day of film photography. And he opened his arms, he picked me up, he put me on his lap, and he had a photo. And I still have it in a frame at home. It's a shame it wasn't digital. It might be in better condition.
Ah, amazing. What a fantastic story.
Yeah, and it was an amazing experience.
Yeah. So if your leadership style were a song or a movie, what would it be and why?
Just keep going. Absolutely. I think for me, that notion of forward traction, that just keep going, just keep moving. I saw Kylie Minogue a few weeks ago in Bangkok, so maybe locomotion, in the sense that whenever I think about myself as a leader, I do think very much about a train, and I'm on that train and I'm honking the horn and I'm saying, hey, we've got this amazing opportunity to go to this wonderful place. Jump on board. And that's the way I see leadership. It is, it's not always me driving the train. Other times there's other people who know how to drive better taking the lead. But we're all heading in the same direction. We've got the same vision and the same goals, but we get there in our own way. But we honk the horn and we try and bring others along with us.
Talking now, I guess, a little bit more about that leadership journey of yours. What inspired you to become an international school or education leader?
Yeah, and I will precede it by I never wanted to be in this role. I never saw myself as a head of school. I never ever had that aspiration. When I worked in the classroom, I passionately loved it. And I do remember someone saying to me once, oh, you should apply for a deputy head. I'm like, I'm not interested in buses. I'm not interested in schedules. I still do see myself as a teacher, and I get really upset when people say I'm just a teacher, because as far as I'm concerned, being a teacher is the most wonderful job, career you can be. The only difference and the reason I sit where I sit today is because I'm also a yes person. And when opportunities present themselves to me, I say yeah, and I give it a go. And if I don't like it, I won't do it again. However, I give it a go. And I have two criteria with anything to do with my work. Will it give me an opportunity to be challenged? And will it force me to step up and grow and embrace something new? And secondly, do I have the skills and the capabilities to grow others in that role? And they're the two criteria. So I never dreamed of being a head of school. I love being a head of school. I also sometimes look at our teachers heading off with their kids and I think, oh, I want to come too, because I do miss that intimate relationship you have with your learners as a classroom teacher and that community of learners that you create. But I also know I help a lot more children sitting in the role I sit. And so while the work's strong and there's work to do, I'm happy being in this role. But I guarantee you, the last job I do before I retire, I start as an early childhood teacher and I'll be back in that early childhood setting with my grey hair and my beads and my group of kids.
Can you identify a defining moment in your leadership journey?
There's so many. There are so many, but I think for me, the greatest defining moments was when I was working in the public system in Australia, and my role as a curriculum coordinator, PYP coordinator, was to mentor and work with the graduate teachers. And in the school we were in, as a first year graduate teacher, you spend a year doing, I would say, a mini master's thesis. We pick an area and you do action research in the classroom. And sitting and hearing the presentations of we had 8 at that time, 8 graduate teachers, looking at the growth they'd had as professionals by tracking student learning outcomes was so fulfilling. And it was then that I decided that whatever I do, I will always mentor someone in a role that's hierarchically below the role I'm in, because I was mentored and I have that. And to see the growth in these teachers just made me realize, as an experienced educator, what we can bring to the table. And so I still do. I still have someone who mentors me, and I still mentor somebody who is where I was a few years ago in their career.
Yeah, and that's such great advice. I was speaking to someone the other day on what advice they would give to anyone up and coming in leadership, and they said 2 things: get a mentor and be a mentor, because you learn so much on both sides of that equation, and it's incredibly rewarding.
And look, sometimes people ask, this particular person I'm mentoring actually applied for a job at our school and wasn't ready for the role they applied for, but I saw this incredible potential leader, and I wrote to them and said, look, I know I didn't give you the job. However, would you let me mentor you? And we do. And we meet once a fortnight and we talk. And it's just as rewarding for me as I hope it is for them.
Fantastic. Now, you talked a little bit before about your work across different cultures and countries. Is there a big aha moment that you think about in terms of leading across different cultures?
Yeah. That I was exceptionally monocultural. When I left Australia, I really didn't understand what it meant to leave your country of birth or a country where you've lived a long time. And before leaving Australia back in 2006, many of my perceptions around the world and of people were very racially driven. And it was a huge aha moment for me that I speak one language. And even when I've lived in multiple countries, I speak 1%, if that, of the language. And I work with daily families and people who are trilingual. Australia is a country filled with immigrants who've had to leave, and they're mastering 2 and 3 languages. And just that understanding of how the world and how people move, but the strength, courage, resilience, intelligence that requires people to change countries, really changed the way I thought about humanity, but also too about education. Because as a white Australian, born into a wealthy family and having an excellent education, I had every privilege provided to me. However, not all roads lead to England. This world, and particularly if you live in Southeast Asia or pretty much anywhere above Australia and across, this world is full of humans who are brilliant and have the capacity to do amazing things. And speaking English isn't always the greatest. It's not the number one skill set we need.
So if we talk a little bit now about the realities of leadership, what might be one of the toughest leadership challenges you've ever faced, and how did you navigate it?
So I'm giggling because I sent a meme to my leadership team today saying, I'm not a people person, and yet I chose a career that makes me need to be a people person. And I do think that that is the greatest challenge as a leader, is that, and I don't think it's industry dependent. I think it is a global skill set, is the ability to interact with humans in a respectful, non-judgmental, growth-focused perspective, and recognizing that every single human has challenges and has layers in their life that impact their work, and that the work is so important, but the human quotient is even more important. And that at the moment is my greatest challenge.
What's one mistake that's shaped your leadership journey?
Only one? I've got plenty.
Let's start with one.
I've got plenty. I would say the greatest mistake, I would say collectively, is my innate need to fix stuff or get stuff done. And actions and outcomes are significant. And when you're working in any environment, meeting your KPIs, getting your jobs done, it's highly significant. But sometimes in our need to finish a job or a task or solve a problem or put that parent complaint to bed, we react versus respond. And so for me, I'm working very hard at being still and being peaceful and letting whatever it is that we're dealing with. And let's just say it's a parental email, it's a complaint about a teacher. You know how to fix it. You want to shut it down. However, by sitting, by being still, by talking to key stakeholders, by being reflective, you'll get stuff done in a more effective and human-centric way if you take that time to pause. And I think for me, I've always been that box-ticking leader, and I'm working hard to just sit in the discomfort.
And that's almost counterintuitive, isn't it? In your rush to get things done, to actually take the time, and like you said, to be reflective, to consider, to consult, and all those things is actually, in the long run, a much more positive and successful way to deal with situations and different things.
I'm a voracious audiobook reader, podcaster, and I was listening to a podcast recently, and they said, never second guess your first thought. Second guess your second thought, because it's the second thought that often leads you to trouble. Because let's say you get an email from a tricky parent. Your first thought is, put that away, I'll deal with it tomorrow. Your second thought is, no, I've got to address that now. Or, why is this person saying this? Oh, do you know what I mean? And I've found that really great advice, to rethink the second thought. because it's usually the second thought that carries the "I'll set you straight" email.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, as you mentioned that, I'm thinking back to a small PD I did with an Australian fellow, Stuart. I can't remember his last name for the life of me, but he's PD's around productivity and email efficiency and getting to know those systems a little bit better. And he echoed something very similar to you just said. He said, like, because we have a tendency to look at an email, and if we're not quite sure or we have an initial thought or it's a little bit tricky, we just leave it and we go on to something else. Or we go down the other emails. You come back to it 2, 3, 4 times, and you usually end up going back to what you first intended to do with it anyway, but you were just putting it off in the first point. And it's difficult to get over uh, that kind of hump to just deal with it the first time and have it done.
No, absolutely.
So I guess part of what you're talking a little bit about is tough decision making, and as head of school, there's lots of decisions to be made all the time about a range of different things that have from little to big impacts. How do you handle that constant tough decision making?
I absolutely feel the weight of it. And I also recognize the need to be as informed as you can in a decision. And I think that what we just talked about is a big part of decision making is don't, that shooting from the hip, let's get it done, let's deal with it. I've learned over the years that I'm surrounded by a team of brilliant humans, and that the power of a brain's trust and a power of perspective helps me do better. Now, it doesn't mean that the decision that I'd already formed in my head changes. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I've worked very hard to seek feedback, and with our leadership team at our school is create a climate where we give honest feedback. Now, honest feedback can sometimes hurt, okay, because someone might say something that you don't agree with or you is a different perspective. But that's okay, because if you've got a climate where that happens, what you know is the best decision's been made at that time with the information at hand. And I think that sometimes as leaders, we have to acknowledge that we're not always going to make everyone happy with our decisions. However, if we are able to say student learning sat at the centre and the decisions we made are what we believe is best for the students, then I think in a school you garner that respect. I also recognise that not everyone can have input in a decision. And so, collaboration is not 42 people sitting around a table with an opinion, but you can seek data, you can seek feedback, you can create criteria that then helps you make a decision better. But I'm also someone who embraces that we don't always get it right all the time. And I do love that Maya Angelou quote where she says, you do your best with what you know at the time until you know more, and then you do better. And that's our philosophy I try and instill in any community I work in. Okay, the decision we made a year and a half ago was what was the best decision for us right now. But new information's come to hand, and it's okay to say now that course of action needs review. That need to be right and say, well, we did it right. That doesn't fuel me, and it doesn't help those around you grow or take risks.
Hmm. So is there a leadership practice or habit that's changed the game for you?
So many, so many. One of the biggest pieces for me in terms of leadership was thinking of leadership conceptually versus a school leader. And it's been really resonated to me in my role with the Australian Chamber of Commerce, where I don't do anything at all related to education. But understanding the notion that leadership is about driving an organisation, and an organisation is humans. So driving humans to be the best they can be has fundamentally shaped who I am. And recognising the human quotient in leadership. And and having just finished my master's, and I looked at trust in organisational settings, and that notion of trust has to exist in any group of humans for it to work. Because I'm going to trust that my year 3 teacher is going to turn up every day and teach those kids to the best of her ability. And she in turn is going to trust that she has the support and all the above. Schools and big organisations don't work without trust. But trust is 110% based on our human experience and our own past journey. And so we need to always remember the human quotient in what we do. Kevin, I don't know your journey in life. I don't know your past traumas, but I know you will come to your workplace with an expectation and a worldview of trust. And I have to know what you need in order to feel safe. Is it systems? Is it accountability? Is it flexibility? Is it the opportunity to be innovative? Once I know that, we can then put systems and processes in place so that you, with your past human experience, feels valued. So I
Fantastic.
don't know if I answered that, or did I just rabble?
Yeah. Yeah. No, very good. Very good. So, if we maybe cast our minds to the future now, how do you see international education and school leadership evolving over the next decade?
It's a really interesting time. And it's a really exciting time because I feel we're on the cusp of big change. And having been in this game for a long time, when I came into international educators, it was all the Antipodeans, or it was all the Commonwealth nation educators leading the way and being an English speaking educator, the world was your oyster. However, this world is changing, and what we can see is that the clientele we have in our schools is vastly different. You know, when international education really came to the forefront, it was missionary, diplomat, and military kids, and now they're probably our smallest representation. Our international schools are filled with kids from national countries. And I feel that's amazing because we're now finally in a place where that idea of an international education, a globally responsive education, is at the forefront. But it means many of our monocultural ideas and perspectives have to change. And when you look at, say, schools in Hong Kong, where with government changes and curriculum expectations, now for the first time, Chinese speaking teachers are in the highest demand they've ever been. And isn't that amazing? And that when I started international education, you hired native English speakers who had all a very similar skin tone. And now I have the flexibility to hire diversity. And diversity sits on our criteria when we're hiring staff. The world's changing, and for me, so is international education, and that's exciting. That excites me. But also too, I think the affluent days of international education are also changing. The schools with, vaults of cash where we could fly people all over the world, we could do all these amazing experiences, isn't there. And it's requiring our educators and us as leaders to adapt and flip and look beyond national curriculums and curriculum frameworks to say, all right, what is it? What are the pieces we need to put into what we do with our kids, and how do we bring the outside world into education?
So, continuing that thought on a bit more, what's one piece of advice you'd give to an aspiring education or school leader?
Know your context. Know your context and embrace it. International education isn't providing one perspective on the world. So what I mean by that is we're a school in Bangkok. When you walk into our school, I want you to know we're a school in Bangkok. I don't want to look like a shiny, sleek school that could be anywhere in the world. I want features of the Thai culture in our school. I want connections to host country, because whether you're at our school for 13 years or 3 months. This is your one chance to learn about the Thai culture. Because as you learn about the Thai culture, you will see there are connections to the way things are done in your own country. You will see elements of the Thai culture that just are far more superior than your own. You will understand the differences in the world. And so for me, international education is about, when you like blue tack or Play-Doh and I'm an early childhood teacher, and you drop it and it gets sand on it and it's forever changed. That's how I see our students in the context of what we have now, that their time with us gives them enough of Thailand that they're forever changed. And if they then move to another country, the same happens. And that's why an international education changes our kids forever. My 3 kids have had an international education, and the hardest thing for them is to slip back into, say, Australian expectations, because whilst they look and sound Australian, they've got the sand from Thailand, they've got the bits from China, they've got the Korean influence, and they're forever changed. And we need to embrace that.
Really interesting. Yeah. So a couple of quick questions to wrap things up then. What's your favorite book on leadership?
It's not a well-known book. It's called Ferocious Warmth by Tracy Ezard. And Tracy is an Australian educational consultant, and her work is amazing. And the piece that I really love, there are 2 pieces I love from Tracy's work. One is when she's looking at professional growth of staff, she says, "What's your extraordinary?" Now, if I said to you, Kevin, what's your extraordinary? You'd suddenly start sifting ideas through. Because what do I share? What do I tell you? What if I say to you, this is my extraordinary, and you think, that's not so good? But if I asked you what areas you need to work on, it's like bang, 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 bang. And the reality is growth and innovation doesn't come from a deficit model. It comes from taking your gift, what you're extraordinary at, what your passion is, and investing in that. And so that work of Tracy's has really flipped the way we do. We don't do appraisals anymore at Ascot. We do personal growth processes where our teachers have to identify their extraordinary and research it. But the second part that I love is Tracy talks about head and heart leadership, and the analogy that you've got to have a heart of gold and a spine of steel to be a leader. And in isolation, they don't work. If all you are has a spine of steel and you're a hard ass and you're going to keep everything aligned, we have a toxic work environment. If you're all heart and it's all touchy-feely and everything's okay, we have people who stagnate, and we don't have growth. But when you combine the 2 elements, that's when you have a workplace of trust. Yeah,
Amazing.
Tracy's work is incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll need to check that out. One thing you do daily that helps you to lead better?
Drink a lot of coffee. No, there are 2 things. I need to go to bed knowing what my day looks like. So I am that person who at 8:00 at night will go through a calendar, set the day up, make sure everything's ready for that day. That's the Donna thing. But what I also do is once that's done, I'm not on technology at night. I have an audiobook. I listen to that. I have a reading comprehension problem. I've learnt that in later life. And so I immerse myself in fiction. It's not highbrow. It's what I need to do to wind my mind down and to be ready for the day. But I also am very blessed to have a little studio at my house, and every weekend I'm playing and making and doing my art, which is my brain switch off time.
Amazing. A leader, past or present, you admire?
I really do spend a lot of time investing in Maya Angelou. I really find her journey, but also her understanding of the human spirit and how flawed we are, just something that helps me remain more connected to people. And I do often say to myself, remember, Donna, No one wakes up today and says, today I choose to be the worst educator ever. Everyone gets up and says, today I've put my pants on and that's a success. But we do. We get up, we do what we have to do, and we go into our day trying to be the best we can. And sometimes we kick goals. And sometimes if we're in bed and we're breathing and we've had food, that's a win too.
Yeah, I think we've all been there, that the highlight of our day is putting pants on in the morning is about as successful as a day's going to get. And that's okay. You're going to have days like that.
Yeah. And you got up, because there are people in this world who can't get up.
Yeah. And finally, best advice you've ever received, apart from put your pants on in the morning, I guess.
Yeah. And I do manage the pants on. My grandmother. And when I was going through a really difficult time, she looked at me and she said, you know you're enough. And whatever comes your way, you can handle it. And you're enough and you'll get there. And I even have that on my computer. And when I'm brave enough, I'm going to get that tattooed on my wrist. And to remind ourselves we are. Sometimes we don't believe it. Sometimes we wish we weren't. Yeah.
Well, on that lovely sentiment from Grandma, I think that's the perfect place to leave things. So thank you so much, Donna, for joining me today. I really enjoyed chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Great to meet you. And hopefully we'll meet in person one day.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah.
Great.
So fast. You've done this before. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks. Thanks so much for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, etc. Drop a comment below to let me know anything you'd like covered in upcoming episodes or suggestions for future guests. You can also connect with me on Instagram and LinkedIn.